what's up, everybody? I'm Skull.
I'm Zombie Cat.
And this is the Horror Den. And today is another very special episode. We are celebrating 200 subscribers! Woo!
Already.
It was just yesterday that we filmed our 100 special. We could probably got a couple more of these planned before it just gets ridiculous and we change the number until we do a special.
We're already getting on our way to 250, so...
Yeah, at the time of this recording, we're closer to 250 than we are to 200. So we might do a special at 300. We're still talking about it. So, I mean, keep your eyes open and just keep up the support. If you like what we do here and you like this video, just remember to give us a like, a comment, and a subscribe. It means the world to us and, gives us the drive to put out more content like this. So...
our winner of our big poll, our options were Slender Man, Christine, Brightburn, and As Above, So Below. And Brightburn, it was pretty close. It was,
like 10%, maybe.
I don't know. I think towards the end, As Above, So Below got closer and closer, but we are thankfully covering Brightburn because I love this fucking movie.
As Above, So Below was my idea, but we were kind of worried about it because we've done a lot of found footage, but it's such a good movie.
We will get to it.
Don't worry.
I love that movie too.
We wanted to cast a very wide net for our audience from every genre of horror out there just to kind of see what you guys wanted to see next, and you picked this movie, so that's what we'll be covering today. So, today we are covering Brightburn, directed by James Gunn, and this was released in...
2019.
Yeah. So it's...
And James Gunn is making the new Superman movie, so I feel like this had a little bit of nudging towards that.
Which I think is hilarious.
It is. This movie is just the complete opposite of everything Superman is.
Right. It's more like Homelander's origin story, I feel like. The movie opens with the Breyer family instead of the Kent family, and the dad is played by Roy from The Office.
Right!
And they're having some sexy time, and we see...
You also notice, yeah, I'm sure that's what you were about to say, you see books all over the wall, on the shelves, being like, like...
Fertility in you!
Yeah, like that they are struggling to have a kid, so...
it's
about to try again.
Yeah. It's like a maybe like 2-minute scene, but then the house, you can kind of see like there's this collection of spoons like moving on the wall.
Yeah, the wife gets up, spoons are rattling on the wall. I guess they thought like maybe it was a small earthquake or something. And then everything just boom, and you see out the window a spaceship has landed.
Well, I think it's supposed to make the audience think that it might have been like a meteor.
Yeah.
At first, but it's a spaceship. But then it cuts ahead to this like home footage style. It's like really real looking. Which Zombie Cat before this was saying that he wonders like if it really was real home footage.
I even noticed the baby looked a lot like...
I think it was Brandon.
The baby looked just like...
It's very possible this was maybe his... I mean, we might be completely wrong, and they just did a great job.
Or he had like a younger brother or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
We'll have to figure that out.
But either way, if we can figure something out, that would be really cool to know. But we see this home footage of the Breyer family, and then it cuts to 10 years later. So that would make him 12, about to turn 12.
Well, he has his birthday early in the movie, so he's 12.
He's about to turn 12, so he is 12 basically at the beginning of this movie. It starts with like, I think it's like a first day of school, or it's just a regular day where he's got to go to school.
I think it's just a regular day of school.
But the mom goes upstairs, Tori goes upstairs to find Brandon, who's not there, and so...
Essentially, it seems like this mom and Brandon have like a whistle game that is heavily foreshadowing some stuff in the future. She checks under the bed, she doesn't see him there, and she does this whistle to kind of like call out for him, and he responds, and I think he shouts something like, "Oh, you're not even close," and gotta hear him running away, and she's like, "Oh," and then she goes out to the family's like barn. They live on a.
She literally says, "You better not be in that barn."
They literally live on a to a T Superman farm, like
In Kansas.
Yeah, in Kansas, in Brightburn, Kansas,
Instead of Smallville.
Yeah. So she goes into the barn and she whistles again. He whistles back and they get close. It's a jump scare moment, but it's fun. He just jumps out at her and yeah, it's just she's like, "Oh, you're getting too old for this," you know, just kind of like. And then they head outside. And
something important. The mom does say that like your dad would kill you if he knew you were out here. It's like a big rule: don't go in the barn.
Yeah, but once they leave the barn, she was like, "Oh, he was only in there for just a few minutes and stuff like that," and then they just go in to have some breakfast.
So then it cuts to Brandon at school, and they're learning about, like, I guess insects, but they were specifically bees and wasps and stuff like that, which, he starts spouting off all these facts, and we see him drawing this, like, symbol that he's made all over his journal and stuff, which that comes up a lot later.
2 bees, it's like a line and two bees on each side.
But the teacher, you know, thinking that she can catch a kid not paying attention.
The teacher being James Gunn's wife, which is Harcourt in the Peacemaker TV show, which is awesome.
Insert, do you really want to taste it?
Fun cameo there.
But he starts spouting off like some insane facts about like wasps and stuff.
Yeah.
And
like,
the kids make fun of him, which we all laughed about because one of the kids making fun of him reminded us of somebody we went to school with pretty heavily. But anyway.
He says something stupid too. He's like, "You sure know a lot about maggots. That must mean you are one." And the whole class is just like... While he's giving the class and the teacher this information, there's a girl who's looking back at him and she's like pretty impressed, like how smart he is. Like she kind of gives him a cute eye, I guess.
A cute eye. But the reason that scene's important is because it illustrates just how intelligent he is. Like he's super smart, and it says it in the next scene. He's like in the top 0.01% of kids.
Yeah, it's like the top 10 kids in like the U.S. or something.
Yeah, he's like super smart. But you know, it cuts to that night after he's made fun of and he's sleeping, and we see this red light coming from within the barn with this like alien language.
It's so cool.
And it's like shining up into his room, and it's like speaking to him, and he starts seizing. And
then his eyes open. They almost look like blind eyes. Like as if his eyes rolled to the back of his skull. Yeah,
and then when his eyes open, they have the red irises around, and then he stands up and he goes out to the barn sleepwalking, and the mom, I guess, finds out that he's not in his bedroom, and then finds him out in the barn, and he is on top of this like trap door that leads down to like a cellar, and he's just yanking on it and he's like speaking this alien language, saying this same thing over and over and over.
Did he have a word deciphered at this point?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But then she touches him and snaps him out of it.
He's like, "Where am I at? Like, what's going?" Like, he's scared.
But then, you know, they go to bed, and
she doesn't tell the husband about this.
No, she's like, he was sleepwalking downstairs. He's fine. Obviously not fine. So the next day, Kyle, I want to call him Roy so bad, just because it's funny, but Kyle and Brandon are doing some yard work the next day, and I guess they're like screwing some boards together or something. I don't know what they're doing.
Putting planks together or something.
But Kyle has to go run to the feed store, so he asks Brandon to do the lawn for him.
There's also like a nice little character building moment between the two. He was like, "Once your mom left you alone with me and I had no clue how to be a dad," and he's like, "This was the magic trick right here." And he kind of just gave him a piece of candy, and he's like, "Did it work?" And a funny little nudge, he's like, "Yeah, you grew up and you seem to turn out okay."
But
it was the candy.
Yeah, it was definitely the candy.
The candy.
But then, Kyle's gone, and so we see him grab the lawnmower. He's trying to crank it, and I relate to him in this moment because I too had a shitty lawnmower growing up that would not start.
I think we all did.
And it's a push mower. Do you know how long that would have to take with that property? Like, I think I would rather dig both my eyes out. But anyway, so it won't start. He gets mad, and so he I guess he's just trying to toss it to the side, but then it just
just straight yeets it across the farm.
And it starts on impact. Funny enough, and he walks up and he's amazed at himself.
He's hearing those voices again in his head, and I think it's almost tempting him to show him you're not like everybody else. Almost he's being called. He's looking at his hand, and he's pulling his hand to the blades.
Yeah, the lawnmower blades are exposed, and you just see him go.
Yeah, and he's hearing these voices in his head, and he just sticks his hand in, and it freaking jams the blades.
Just jams, it bends the blade.
Literal metal, just dong. It's
no cut, no nothing.
Yeah, it just straight broke the lawnmower, and we were cracking up. What is he gonna tell his dad?
What is it that you said, D-Mac?
I was like, his dad, he leaves and comes home a little bit later, and out of nowhere, the lawnmower is 150 yards away in some field with the blade completely bent at a 90-degree angle, and his son's just standing there just dumbfounded. And how, as a child, how do you explain that to your dad? How do you tell your dad, yeah, sorry, I kind of threw the lawnmower the length of a football field away and stuck my hand in the blade and completely destroyed it. Sorry about that.
Ryan talking to Butcher.
Yeah, for real.
But surprisingly, that never comes up again.
I thought maybe they referenced it, but I guess they didn't.
But I guess he just said he hit a rock or a root or something. I mean, I don't know.
At this point, it cuts to a little diner, kind of like a Waffle House or something like that.
Yeah, it's Brandon's birthday.
It's Brandon's birthday, so now he's 12. So that's what I meant. Right then, he's 12. His mom and him, they're playing little games and stuff. They're sitting at their dinner table, and
his aunt and uncle are there.
Yeah, his aunt and uncle are there. He gets brought out some ice cream by a character that we know is Erica, who she will come back into play later. She brings him some ice cream, and he's like, oh, this is embarrassing. The dad jokes. He's like, oh, you can pass it my way. And he blows out his candle, and the uncle decides to give him his present, which is just a standard hunting rifle, I think, right? It's just,
I don't know if it's a standard hunting rifle. It may be a beginner rifle.
Yeah, it's just a little...
Probably a youth model and stuff.
Yeah, it's something...
Look, we may have grew up in bumfuck nowhere, but I don't know anything about what you give a 12-year-old to start hunting. Okay,
yeah. It's just a hunting rifle.
Yeah, it's meant. The uncle says, and I quote, "I killed my first buck with this same model." That's what he says. So it's strong enough to take down a deer.
Yeah. So the parents are freaking out though. They're like,
no, it's just the dad that's freaking out. Yeah. The mom's fine with it.
Yeah, the mom seems fine with it. The dad, he's kind of like, whoa, no guns, no guns. Which is kind of weird because they're farmers, and it's even later he's hunting, so it's I don't know, it was a weird...
Yeah, and he gets upset about it, tries to take it away, and Brandon's like, no.
Give it back.
And he's like, give it to me, and he slams his hand on the table, and you see the TV flicker
cool.
behind him. And
in this movie also, to get away with some of the things, I think it's based in 2006, 2009.
No, he was found in 2006.
So it would have been 2016.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that brings up a plot hole later then. So yeah.
Because we'll get to it.
Yeah, well, it's no big deal. So yeah,
the lights flicker when he gets upset. They have this big bickering match, and then they just end up leaving. But later that evening, we see Daddy Breyer, aka Roy, talking with Tori, and they're like, "We should go camping this weekend." And she's like, "Yeah, we haven't done that in a long time." And he's like, "Something else we haven't done in a long time." And so he obviously wants to go camping, and he obviously wants to get freaky. So that's just what we know. So when they are getting ready for this, they go upstairs to Brandon's room, and Roy finds some like pullouts of a magazine of like women's lingerie and like, you know, girls dressed in it and stuff like that.
At first, they're kind of like chuckling about it, like, "Oh, look, we found his secret stash."
Yeah, we found his secret stash. He's
And
getting older.
They start flipping through the pictures though,
And we find
and
pictures
it
of human anatomy.
yeah, like it's pictures of organs and skeletal like diagrams and literally just guts. It's pretty weird. So they decide they have to have the talk with
Tori says, "Is this a guy thing?"
It's
And
like, no, that's not a guy thing.
not at all. But he says, "I guess it's time for him to have the talk." And then it cuts to them camping, and then we see the dad with a hunting rifle.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
what?
And I guess they're hunting for deer or whatever. And they have this very awkward talk.
It's kind of fun. Like, Brandon misinterprets what the dad is trying to say. So we won't go into what they talk about, but he's basically being like, it's okay to do things when you're alone, you know, stuff like that. And Brandon's like, or I think
there are times and places for it to be appropriate for you to give into things.
and he's like, there's probably some girl you go to school with, mentioning that girl who was giving him the cute eye earlier. He seemed to have a liking for, and he's like, right now?
Yeah, can I give into it right now?
He's like, no, not right now. Do not do it right now.
Which the dad in the audience obviously has the same idea, and I definitely think that he does not have the same idea. But it cuts to that night.
And Brandon took that information to heart.
And he's not in the tent.
Yeah, his mom wakes up and Brandon's gone.
So then it cuts to the girl who was giving him the cute eye in the class. Her name's Caitlin.
This is when the horror starts to pick
Yeah.
up.
It cuts to her bedroom, and she's trying to sleep. And then an Elvis song starts playing.
We think
it's an Elvis song. Starts playing on her laptop. And, you know, she gets freaked out by this. You know, it kind of reminds me of when we were kids.
It's like she's sleeping. This just shows you how fast like Brandon is, like super speed. Like the laptop opens, but like you don't see anything. There's no noise or anything, but the window is open. I believe was the window already open?
I think so.
I think it was.
The window might have already been open.
And the
but
curtain was like kind of.
yeah, it was kind of floating just from.
But I think the laptop was open when she was asleep, and then the song starts playing. You know, she gets freaked out, which that reminds me of our childhood. I always had these like Hot Wheels like set toys that had batteries, and they would just start making noise in the middle of the night.
Yes.
So I know exactly how that feeling is. And so she gets up, goes over, turns off the music, and as she closes the laptop, she turns around to walk back to bed. And then the music starts playing again, and she turns around and the laptop is open again.
Like literally instant.
And the music is playing. And right about now, she's obviously freaked out.
So she closes it one more time and puts books on top of it. So at this point, is it when she turns to the curtain?
She notices that the window is open, and then she's starting to piece together that somebody might be in the room with her.
She turns to the curtain and kind of sees the silhouette of Brandon standing there.
I don't think it's a silhouette. You see his face.
Yeah, you pretty much just see him,
Yeah,
but
just a
he's kind of
glimpse,
just like blending with the curtain. Like, it's pretty cool.
For a half second, it's like.
Which is horrifying.
And she screams for her mom. You know, her mom comes in and is like, there's somebody behind the curtain. And then there's nobody there. And then she says, he was standing right there. And the mom's like, who was it? And she was like, it was Brandon Byers. Or Breyer. Not Byers. What is this, Stranger Things? But Breyer. And then by this time, the mom and dad are freaking out back at the campsite trying to find him. They go out into the woods calling for him, and then the mom turns around and there's Brandon.
Yeah, just like an instant.
And he's just like, I'm sorry, I had to pee.
Yeah, just like, God, I had to pee. What y'all doing?
And then we cut back to them at home, and it's like nighttime, like 10 o'clock at night. And the dad, Kyle, I always forget his name. He walks outside around where the chickens are because he can hear them.
Yeah.
And he finds...
Oh, yeah, he's putting the rifle that he was given for his birthday up in the closet.
Yeah, and he finds Brandon standing in front of the chicken pen.
And they are going insane.
And he's like, buddy, are you okay? And he says, yep. Just nonchalant.
He says, I think so.
Yeah, he's like, I think so. It's just so nonchalant, like he wasn't just being a creep.
It's wolves, so they've had a wolf problem before. So, like, this gets mentioned later, and she's like, oh, it's just a wolf again.
But he takes Brandon back up to bed, and then later that night, I guess he hears something or whatever, and he goes to check on the chickens again. The door has been ripped off, and all of the chickens have been slaughtered in the middle of the night.
It's brutal.
And by this point, he's like, this isn't a wolf. There's no way a wolf could do this. So he goes and wakes up Tori, takes her down to show her, and he's like, I think this was Brandon. And then she loses her shit on him, saying like...
Being a super protective mother. Like,
yeah.
She's like, there's no way that was Brandon. What do you mean?
And they kind of just leave the argument there, and it cuts to the next day when Brandon's at school. And I would never want to play this with my classmates growing up.
They're playing like a trust game, essentially. They have a ring around one kid, and it's
called Willow in the Wind.
Yeah, it's basically like trusting your teammates to build like a bond, essentially.
Somebody stands in the center and just kind of crosses their arms and like free falls back, and then people like use their hands to keep them in the middle. I would never ever want to do that with people.
So whatever kid's going, his turn's over, and then it's Brandon's turn. And you can see the little girl whose house he visited. She's in the circle, and she kind of has a look of, but they're doing the pushing, like he's getting fumbled around. And then he comes up to her, and she just goes, ew! And he just falls, and like hits his head on the freaking concrete.
If he was a normal kid, that would cause some damage.
That would hurt.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it like bounced off the concrete. But
the sound, the audio for that hit was like, good. It was good.
It was a solid hit.
Yeah.
But then the coach is like, what is the matter with you? Help him up or you're going to fail this class. And he looks pissed. Brandon, like, he looks evil at this point. The girl kind of just unwillingly puts her hand down to help him up. And he just grabs it and freaking crushes it.
Yeah, it looks like her hand folds like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you can see it
pulls.
like morph in his hand. Yeah. It's awesome.
Like turn to goo.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Like the Mr. Fantastic toys, like that plastic that was smushy.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah.
That would be a really cool. I think it was practical.
Maybe,
like it might have been practical.
A lot of this movie did look practical.
I mean, there's some stuff that was obviously not.
But I'm talking about like the brutal stuff like that. A lot of it looked really good.
Oh God, we're about to get to a pretty intense one for me. So when this happens, Caitlin's mom, the waitress that gave him the ice cream.
Her name's Erica.
Erica. I'm terrible with names, guys. But she's obviously upset. But I will say, she was a pretty big bitch about the way that she was talking about where he came from.
Yeah, she was for no reason just calling him out, being like, oh, that's not even your kid. Who knows what kind of inbred family
stuff.
Evil. Just, it's like, what does that got to do with anything, bro? It's
like she wants him handcuffed. I mean, she wants legal things done, which, I mean, I understand that part, but like, why did you have to? I guess when it goes back to the whole conversation.
They're just riled up. Both the families are just heated because it's like, what in the hell? But so yeah, essentially, the mom, I can't remember, Tori, is that her name?
Tori.
So essentially, Tori just kind of leaves, and she's like, I'm sorry about your daughter, and she grabs Brandon and she's like, come on, we're leaving. And Brandon gives Erica the stare of Satan. It's haunting.
It reminds me of The Omen a little bit.
Like, I'm coming for you.
Then it cuts to that night, they're having a conversation about everything that's happened and about just how he was growing up. And Kyle mentions that he has never been hurt before. He's never had a cut. He's never had a bruise or a scrape or a broken bone.
Which could explain, like we were just talking about him falling back.
Yeah,
like,
he's never been hurt.
He literally just didn't react to it.
He's never been hurt, never been sick, anything like that. And
Superman.
So, yeah, Superman. At this point, Tori reveals to Kyle that when he sleptwalked, he was pulling at the latch. And he says, "Did he find it?" And she says, "No." Which
they're starting to get just a little suspicious. They're like, "What's going on?"
yeah, and at this point, the audience is starting to understand that they are hiding something actively.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we've seen this movie before, so watching it back, we know what they're hiding. But it's really cool. Like, I remember the first time we watched this, how I was like, I didn't know exactly what it was that they were hiding.
Yeah.
But speaking of the latch, later that night he sleepwalks yet again, and he goes.
I think this is when he starts deciphering what these chants are. The first thing he picks up is take.
Yep.
He's like repeating take, take, take.
He said whatever alien word is take. So
Yeah.
he's like figuring it out in his head. He goes to the barn and breaks off the chain and opens
like just
up.
a tug. He just goes.
Yeah, and takes like opens up the hatch, and there is the spaceship that he crashed in, and it's exuding this red light that we've seen on and off throughout the movie. And he starts seizing up again, doing this whole chant, and he starts floating
He's
above
levitating above it, and then the mom comes in and finds him, and she's like, "Brandon," and it kind of snaps him out of it, and he falls and cuts his hand on the ship.
Yep, which
Like it's a gash. Like it hurt.
which is a big point. He's never been cut before. He literally just said it the last scene.
Definitely not foreshadowing.
No. But at this point, the Tori has no choice but to reveal to Brandon that he is not adopted like through a system. In fact, he's an alien that came down from the stars.
Him, like the Superman talk of like, you know, you're not technically our kid, but you are our son. You know what I mean? Like she's being super sweet about it and like telling him the honest truth about what happened. But instead of the Superman way, he gets pissed.
He's like, "You lied to me! I hate you all, you liars!"
He
and starts-
runs into the house and he's like throwing picture frames everywhere. Like the dad's like, "What's going on in here?" He's just slinging stuff, and he goes outside in the rain, and it's really cool. Like his hair's getting wet, and you just see like his backside, and he's still hearing those voices in his head, and he's getting closer and closer, and he realizes it's take the world.
Yep, that was what the aliens are telling him to do.
So he was sent there to take the world.
Oh, when he finds this out, his like rage bubbles up inside of him, and he yells as laser vision comes out of his face. It's a really cool shot.
Yes.
And after the conversation with Tori about how he's special, this is a pretty cringe scene, I'm not gonna lie. He goes back to visit Caitlin, the girl with the sweet eyes. And he comes back to tell her
He's holding some flowers.
Yeah, he gives her some flowers, and then he says, "You know, I'm having to come to terms with just how special I am," which it reminds me very much of Supervillain. Like, let me tell you my secret plan because I'm special.
And something we had to like think about while we were watching it too, were like, these people just think he's a regular kid, so it's like, they don't realize he's literally the equivalent of a Kryptonian. So it's like they think they're just talking to some kid and he's being creepy as hell. Except for the parents. The parents are getting there. Well, now they're even the mom's still pretty.
She's in denial.
Yeah.
But he, is talking to her and all this stuff, and she's like, "My mom told me not to talk to you," and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fix that."
And the first thing he says when he walks into he's like, "Don't scream. Don't scream." Like,
okay. I think I'm gonna scream now.
Her hand's literally in one of those big old
casts.
And then when he leaves after after he says, "I'll take care of that," he leaves the flowers on her bed, like once again, just happening like that, and he's gone.
And then it cuts to the scene that made me the most uncomfortable out of this entire movie.
Awesome though.
Oh, it is a good scene. Don't get me wrong. But
it cuts back to
it's
the
Erica.
Waffle House.
Yeah, Erica is closing up the diner, and she says like goodnight to the cook or whatever, and you know she's counting the drawer, and she's doing closing stuff, and she hears a noise, and she looks behind her, and then all the windows have been fogged up with the symbol,
the Brightburn logo.
Yeah, the symbol all over the windows, and she's like, Greg, are you messing with me or whatever? And then the lights are flickering, and then she's looking above.
She looks up. It's like, what are those lights called?
It's fluorescent light
fluorescent
tubes.
Lights.
Like we had in school.
Oh, just...
But it gets brighter and then busts, and all the glass shards fall, and one of them gets stuck right in her pupil.
Literally straight in. And they add this amazing sound effect. This is horrifying, by the way. She drops to her knees, and you see that this shard is stuck in her eye, and when she moves it, they add this sound effect. It's just like...
Yeah, like when her eyes move, you hear the glass move.
Oh, it's great, but it's so terrifying.
It was at this moment that I realized that eyes are a really sensitive thing for me. Mm-hmm. Like last week, when we covered Clown...
It was the wrist.
It was the wrist for him. For me, it's the eyeball. Like, I can just feel it. Because, okay, I know D-Mac can attest to this. After wearing contacts for years and years and years, when those things get folded up on your eye, it is like you want to die for about 5 seconds. Or until you get it out.
Or when they go to a place that you can't reach.
Oh God, I don't even...
And you just gotta take the time to work it back down and grab it. It's like, oh my God.
It happens.
It does happen.
That sounds terrible.
It is. Especially like a brand new pair of contact lenses. They're the worst. But anyway, so she slowly pulls this out of her eye, and then like blood just
the effect is incredible. That's why I'm almost like, this had to be practical. Like, obviously not a real piece of clay, but like somehow...
It was practical, alright. It was method.
Yep. But at least like the bleeding had to be real. Like, it looked good. So half of her vision is distorted. Like, it's almost like looking through a pair of beer goggles. Like, the screen's like
one side is
warping.
bloody and one side's not.
And it's so cool how they played with the camera here. Like, on the red side of her face, you start seeing Brandon, and now he has a new suit. It's not really a suit, it's more of just a hood and a cape.
Which we find out about where that comes from later, which is really cool. I didn't notice it the first time I watched this movie.
So, it's like this... It's almost like he has a trunk. It's so awesome. It's terrifying.
It's like shoelaces, where it's like, it's split right here, and there's like tied together with string, and there's just the two holes for eyes.
Yeah, it's so cool. It
kind of looks like Cthulhu's face, almost like with the strings. It's really weird.
It's cool though. It's
I'm sure
awesome.
Smite Lad can put a picture up so you kind of have an idea what we're talking about here.
But yeah, James Gunn did I don't know who, it probably wasn't James Gunn, but whoever designed that costume, it's like, it was a less is more kind of thing. It's like, something that simple is that scary, just being a blanket.
Right.
It's like...
we'll just go ahead and say it was his baby blanket that he was found in.
It's not that big.
No, which is just cool. It's a cool touch that I didn't notice my first time.
It's his baby blanket. He made it into a mask and cape. It's so awesome.
Has a cool design on it too.
But through her red eye, like, getting distorted, she sees Brandon in like this red blood filter, and he keeps like moving around, getting closer and closer, until she finally just gets up and bolts to the freezer of this diner. And as someone who's worked a lot of fast food, that's probably not the best place to go.
Oh, but I can just imagine how it felt, like being in the hot kitchen and then walking in there.
But she's cold immediately because she starts...
Well, I know, but it just reminded me of simpler days.
Maybe it'd make that eye feel better. I don't know.
I don't think anything's making that eye feel better.
Get you an ice pack.
She probably can't even feel it because she's so scared.
Get you an ice pack.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So at this point, freaking another awesome scene. You just see like fire coming through this freaking steel freezer door, and it's just like slowly burning down. It's a really cool take on like laser vision. It's almost like burning instead of just like a beam. It's almost like fire coming down the freaking
It's like
thing.
a welding thing.
Yeah, and then the door is just freaking sucked back like freaking lightning, and there's Brandon just standing there in his cool costume, and she's just holding her eye, and he lunges at her, and that's what we see of that.
She's dead.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
There's a funny cut at this point. After he does that lunge, it cuts to like a bowl of porridge going...
It's probably like oatmeal or something. I don't know.
Amazing
This
scenes.
got under my skin. So he has to go to a counselor, right? Because he got suspended for 2 days, and he has to go visit the counselor, which the only counselor in the county is his aunt. So he has to go talk to her. And so they have their first meeting together, and he reveals that he feels superior to everyone because of his lineage. And, you know, from an outside point of view, he just seems like a crazy little psychopath.
And she's thinking like, you don't even know your real parents, you know what I mean? She's like, what are you talking about?
And then she drops the bomb on him that she has to see improvement or she has to go to the sheriff. And he's like, no, you can't do that. And she's like, well, I got to do my job. And then so the session
Why
of...
does she gotta go to the sheriff?
It's probably because he
The hand.
broke
Okay.
the girl's hand.
I got jumbled. Okay, yeah, okay. That's why he's there in the first place.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to report you to the police, bud. Because that's technically like assault, I think.
Yeah.
Like aggravated assault.
Yeah, it's something really serious.
I mean, he's
And
a
he has
kid
to
though,
show-
so at least.
He has to show remorse.
Wait,
Well,
juvie.
that's why they're like giving him the chance to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
remorseful. Is
Right.
because he's so young. They're like, if you just show us that you want to do good.
Yeah, that's all it was. Okay.
But he's not remorseful.
Yeah,
No,
at all.
he does not care.
He's like, I'll do it again. I'll do it again.
I'd
Well,
do
he
it
probably
for-
does care a little because he likes her in a weird way.
That's true. That's true.
I don't think he cares at all.
Well, he gave her the flowers. That's why he took care of the mom.
Okay, as f***ed as this is about to sound, I think that all she is to him is an object.
That could be the case.
Does that make sense? I know
Or
we're talking
either
about
he really-
12-year-olds.
He either really does just like her, but they're just so distant from understanding what is even happening that they're like, what is he talking about?
Think about Omni-Man and Debbie. Like, he loved her, but to him, she was a companion at
I
best.
think that maybe he would have spared her. It's
All
like,
of the humans are insects, but this insect I like
Yeah. I think
more than
it's-
the other ones, but that doesn't make
Yeah.
them that much special.
Yeah.
It's really fun when you put it in that
Yeah,
like
it's
that
a-
frame
it's
of
a-
thought.
It's a crazy person perspective. to have.
It's more like a being of infinite power,
Yeah.
like looking down on someone. Anyway. But
like him looking at the chickens.
yeah, the chickens. That's
That
a
was
good example.
little-
Yeah, true.
So they adjourn the session, and it cuts to that night where Kyle and a bunch of buddies, as well as his brother-in-law, are all, shooting pool at the bar, drinking, talking about the crushed hand incident, and the brother-in-law decides to go home.
One of them makes a kind of mean joke, not knowing, of course, that Brandon's evil at this point. He's like, oh, I bet that crazy kid of yours, I can't remember what he was referring to.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's funny. But he drives home. Meanwhile, the aunt is getting ready for bed, and her motion sensor in the backyard comes on, and there's the automated voice where it's like, movement in backyard. And then she hears a knock on the door. She's freaked out, because who would be there at that late at night? She opens the door. There's Brandon, who then proceeds to tell her that, you know how you were saying that you would have to go to the police? Yeah, you can't do that. And then he does threaten her
Oh, yeah, 100%.
in a very definite way. And she's like, it's very inappropriate for you to come here right now. Go home, be safe. And he's like, you too. Major foreshadowing. But he doesn't leave.
He also says that this is going to be bad for the police, it's going to be bad for my parents, and it's really going to be bad for you.
Yeah. And so then we think he's gone. Actually, he's still in the house. He somehow found a way into the house.
The lights, I think, cut back on.
Yeah, or she goes outside. I still think that we missed something in that shot.
I think it's supposed
of
to
it.
be like that. I think it's just
probably
shadow play.
It's
Like,
supposed to be like, look at all this stuff that he could be in,
mm-hmm.
but
It's like Paranormal Activity.
Where you spend half the movie trying to find what's scary. You're like,
yeah.
I spy in this
I think
bitch.
that's the intention. Is like it's supposed to feel like you're missing something.
And it works because sometimes he's there, but other
Mm-hmm.
times he's not.
Right.
And so you almost
And also,
expect
he could have moved so fast that we couldn't have seen it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the lights in the back cut back on, and she's like, "Brandon, is that you?" And she goes outside, and she's like tapping on the lights like they're not working. And at this point, she just goes back inside and goes to bed, and it's revealed that he is in the house.
Yeah.
Because he does come out of the shadow at this point.
And he's like standing over her. She's sleeping like she just laid down. He's standing in the doorway. And then brother-in-law gets home. I don't remember his name.
Oh, he was just the uncle.
Yeah.
He's Brandon's uncle.
Noah. Thank you, D-Mac. But Noah gets home, and, he goes into his closet, and he finds Brandon. And he's like,
I would cry. He's wearing the mask too. I would literally die.
that's one of those moments where, I don't want to punch a child, but it would have happened in that moment. I don't know how he maintained his composure.
Let's go. I love this.
It's like a haunted house.
He decked his wife wearing the mask.
Got you in your bitch ass.
Maybe for a gag one day we'll have to cover those movies.
Oh, God.
That'd be fun. So at this point he has the very right reaction. He's like, "What the hell are you doing in my closet, you creep?" And he pulls the mask off of him and he takes him out to his truck. He's like, "I'm taking your ass home, like right now." And Brandon's like, "No."
You can't tell my parents.
Yeah. It's like, "You're lucky if that's all I'm gonna do." But so he tries to get him to go inside of his truck. Brandon's obviously not doing that. And so how does it lead off to?
He walks around, opens the door. Brandon hasn't got in yet. And he says, "Brandon, get in the car," as he's walking back. And Brandon is not
Yeah,
there.
he's just gone. That's what it is.
And let me check my notes. There's something that makes him get in the car to drive away. I forget what it was, but
Yeah, he does something. He exposes his power somehow, and he's like,
Brandon just pushes him into the garage door. He throws him.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, he just picks up his uncle and literally
Like, he's not
just-
there though, and then he is there.
Yeah, like super speed, like literally non-visible speed. So he shoves his uncle into the garage door,
And it like crushes in.
yeah, some anime stuff. Then the uncle gets in his car and he's like, "Nope, nope," and he just starts driving away, and you kind of see like Brandon slightly chasing him.
And then Brandon hits the side of the car, disabling it. And like
I think he like comes through the window. doesn't
yeah,
he just-
I think he just punches through the window or something. But something happens with the car to where it won't move.
Yeah,
And he's stuck in
He
the
might
middle.
have like pulled something out to where it's.
That might be it.
I feel like he killed the battery.
Yeah, he could have just.
Yeah.
Like,
With the his.
he's
he
literally
has,
so
electric
fast. He
powers,
could have done
so-
anything. He could have.
He does, like, this is not mentioned further in the movie, but, like, the aliens or him, like, they have some kind of manipulation or interference when it comes to, like, radio transmissions
Yeah.
and, like, TV signals. So, like, that's not played with much later in the movie, but maybe that could be it. Maybe he just deactivated the battery like D-Mac was saying.
Yeah.
And so the car is stopped, and then probably the coolest scene in this entire
This is
movie.
one of my favorite scenes of any horror movie. Like, no joke. It's one of the best gore moments of any horror movie, for sure.
So the car dies in the middle of the street.
And the uncle is having kind of like a funny reaction. He's like, "Nope, no, this is not good."
And like he hits the dash and the lights come on and we see Brandon with the mask on standing down the road, and then the car flicks back off and
it
he's
does
like,
the closer and closer
yeah,
thing.
and not closer. He's like, and he like trying to get it started again, and then he hits it again. The lights come on. This time Brandon is in the same place, but he is floating in midair. This time.
yeah.
And
It's creepy
he's like,
as
"Nope,
hell."
nope, nope. And the car cuts off again. He tries one more time. Brandon's not there.
Yeah.
And then the car gets lifted
See
off
him
the
from
ground.
behind, literally lifting this car into the air like nothing. He takes it up good, I don't know how
Probably
far.
at least 30 to 40 feet in the
Yeah.
air.
And let's go.
And it like drops and it like kind of hits at like an angle like where the front's down here and it kind of hits like this and we see a split-second scene where
It hits the freaking
the
steering
uncle
wheel.
hits the steering wheel and it breaks open his jaw like it's unhinged.
This is one of the it's like this had to be practical. If it's CG, it is some damn good CG. But like you see for a split second the uncle is laying, the glass is shattered, and you see his jaw literally drooping to the side. It's like that sounds so simple, but it is horrifying. It is one of the coolest gore effects I've ever seen, and he instantly just grabs his jaw. He's like,
Trying to hold it in place.
it is disturbing. You can hear it just like rattling from like the bone shatter.
And through the broken window, we see Brandon standing outside the car, and he comes up close, and like the uncle's eyes are horrified. We see every agonizing second of fear, and he just reaches a hand in after taking off the mask and touches the blood and starts drawing the symbol all over the
He's
pavement,
starting to leave an insignia.
like a serial killer leaving a calling card. And then the uncle dies. And we cut forward. So we go back to the house. I'm assuming that Brandon's already back at this point. But it's that night, and Kyle has a dream where it's a flashback to them finding...
Yeah, this is where you find out about the blanket.
Yeah, the baby blanket.
He's kind of having... It's like a little lore moment. You're finding out this was like the little origin moment, but it leads into a nightmare.
And, you know, he sees... You know, the crash, he sees his wife holding something, and she's like, it's a boy, and turns around, and she's holding Brandon as a baby.
Also, her eyes are starting to like bleed.
Yeah,
There's
and
blood
blood
coming
pouring.
from the blanket. It's so cool.
And then, you know, he looks at the baby opens his eyes, has the red eyes, and then does a baby jump scare. Woo! And then he's awake. That's probably the goofiest thing about
Oh
this
yeah,
movie.
but it doesn't take away.
Right, I mean, nightmares don't make sense, so I guess I can give them that leeway.
Yeah,
but
it's whatever.
it's very much a goofy, like... It's at this point that Brandon's lies are starting to get found out, because the next morning, you know, they get a call from their the aunt, and she's like, you know, oh, he's in critical. They won't let me see him because
You can tell she's in shock. She cannot.
Yeah.
He's dead. He is dead.
there's no way he's not.
And she's like, oh, I can't see him because his jaw is messed up.
Well, no,
It's
she
like-
said like because his face is so mangled.
Yeah.
Like that's what the doctors have been telling her,
But it looks like she doesn't think he's dead almost. Like she's
or
like,
doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
And then, so, like, the parents are there to comfort her, and then she was like, you know, did Brandon make it home okay? Because he claimed that he was at a soccer thing and he got bullied.
Oh yeah, we didn't mention that.
But he got
That's how-
bullied, and that's why he, like, hit a shirt.
He came home and he was still wearing the hoodie that he was wearing when he killed the uncle, and he was holding it on his side shirtless and said that he was playing soccer and got bullied, and he did not want to give them that hoodie. So
It was dirty. He'll do it himself. But it's at this moment she asked if he made it home okay, and then, you know, they were like, yeah, and it's like, well, he came by my house and all this stuff, and then they were like, he came to your house, he said he was doing this. So it's starting to be revealed that he's lying about things. And so they confront him about, well, not confront him, but they talk to him about
at
the
first
fact.
they just start with, your uncle passed away.
And he's like,
Okay.
okay. And I wrote down, and I showed DMAC this. I wrote down, they tell Brandon about Noah's death. He didn't act surprised. He's not, obviously. You know? And then, you know, Kyle calls him out on the lies about how he's like, he loved him.
There's also the moment where he's like, if you want to cry, it's okay. He's like, do you want me to cry? It's like,
And then he turns around and claims that he loved him. And then, you know, Kyle loses his shit and it's just like, you're a fucking liar.
yeah, the dad completely is like, nope.
Oh, so, you know, Brandon's like, you know what? I'm gonna go to my room. I'm just gonna go. And then he, like, the argument continues and he shoves his dad into this, like, glass bookcase or whatever. And he's just like, there's this moment of tension. And if it was a normal situation, this would actually be like a super tense situation.
Yeah.
Like in a real household. But this is just like he could snap this whole house like a twig. Anyway, moving on. So he goes upstairs and I guess he hops in the shower to cool down. Well, Kyle takes this opportunity to go look for the shirt because he literally says to Tori, like, he hid that shirt for
And
a
it's
reason.
insane. The mom is still in pretty heavy denial at this point.
He finds the shirt that has blood on it behind the dresser, and he totally straight up lies to Brandon, which I guess he just got what he deserved, and takes Tori into another room, shows her the shirt, and is like, this is Noah's blood, and she's like defending Brandon, still in denial. This is like that toxic like moment.
He was drunk.
Yeah, there's this moment where it's like being a protective mother and not listening to reason. Like it became like this whole like total denial situation,
Which also plays so well into like how this is a play on Superman because his parents were that loving, you know what I mean?
Right.
They genuinely loved Brandon so much.
But it's at this same point that the sheriff of the county has pieced together that this symbol has appeared at both crime scenes, on the window left behind where he saw it through like breathing on it, and then on the pavement in a picture where it was drawn in blood. And so he saw, I don't know how he connected this, but he was like, it looks like two bees, Brandon Breyer.
If you look at it.
Yeah, but I guess that's my only gripe. It's just like, I would never look at that and assume just because somebody's name is BB.
He would have had to have done some real digging because he would have had to have known the
Or-
connection between Brandon and the
Or he
witches.
already, well, I mean, I guess he probably already had a suspicion because the mom that
It was the
disappeared
mom of-
was the same one that was angry because he broke her daughter's
I
hand.
love how
then
the
the
BB
next person is
Somebody close to him,
I love how the BB is like two things as well. It's his first and last name, and then it's also
Brightburn.
That's so sick.
I wonder if that's his superhero name. Well, super, whatever
Oh,
name.
man, that's what I call him.
That's cool. But anyway, so, he goes and talks to Tori, which, by the way, at this point, the dad has taken him hunting. Yeah, we're that far in the movie already.
So he's basically like, I'm sorry about what I did. I shouldn't have gotten that heated. Let's go on like a little hunting trip. The same dad that, didn't want to.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But the sheriff is like, have you seen the symbol before? Which she has. Outside of the school, she saw him drawing it. And so she instantly lies to the cop, and he's like, I'll be back. And it's like, yep. And then she runs upstairs, finds the journal, sees all the BBs, and then finds more drawings detailing his killings, and then detailing him standing in space, eyeball killing the world with his
literally
lasers.
watching it freaking crumble. It's disturbing, of course, but it's so badass.
Really cool.
It's like poster stuff, like for horror fans.
So, at this point, no denial can save her. Her son is the killer.
Oh yeah.
We cut back to Kyle and Brandon on their hunting trip, and Brandon's like looking at these tracks. It's like there's multiple sets of tracks. Like
I
he's
bet
doing.
Brandon will be a crazy hunter. Imagine Superman. Like
He doesn't need to be a hunter.
I know.
He can kill and cook the meat.
And yeah, mature venison.
Yeah.
But it's like Cyclops with the sheets. But then we see Kyle raise his scoped rifle, aim it at Brandon, and shoot him in the back of the head.
All he does is just go.
Nothing
He
happens.
just goes.
Ow, pretty much. Not even.
Probably felt like a fly landing on his head.
He was
even.
more hurt by the fact that he was shot by
His dad.
This is his set off point. This is like he's already been set off, but this is his,
This is the point of no return because
I'm
now,
conquering the world.
yeah, now the only thing the only resemblance of his humanity left has turned on him. So at least that's how I perceive it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
That's
then
what I
a
think, too.
chase sequence happens as now he is donning the mask, chasing his dad through the woods.
And it's crazy to think it's like he had to go home to get that probably. So once again,
Or he just has started having it on his person at all times.
yeah. But it's kind of like, where would he store it? So I like to think that he literally went home like that and he was back. It's like,
Right.
that's cool.
I don't know if he was able to do it that fast because of what we see in just a second and later in the movie. But we'll get to that in a minute. But he, the dad falls and he's begging for his life, and Brandon grabs him and lasers him in the eyeballs.
So badass.
And you just see like the skull cavity.
It once again looks like a fire. It's like you literally see it like burning through his skull like freaking Ghost Rider or something.
And then pops out the other end.
It's so cool. It's a really unique take on laser vision.
It's really the point of no return, because now his dad's dead and he killed him.
But who's gonna stop him?
Right. But now that Tori is no longer in denial, she tries to call Kyle. He answers. And she's like, "You were so right the whole time, blah, 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 blah."
He killed Eric. Yeah,
he killed Noah.
Yeah.
And there's silence, and it's like, "Kyle, are you there?" And then it's just Brandon, and he says, "Mom." And it's just this moment of... and, he's like, "Dad's gone." Gone where? I think you know.
You know where.
No, I don't know. Tell me where. And it's like, "Where are you?" And then he says, "I'm home, Mom." And
Awesome shot. He's standing above the farm with the phone, just crushes it. So cool.
So, after this happens, he starts attacking the house. Mm-hmm. And, Tori gets chased downstairs. She grabs the phone, and she's underneath a desk as he's, like, flying through the house.
So cool. Literally just boom. Boom.
And she calls the cops, and the sheriff who's driving away turns around and comes back.
I think she called them, and then he started doing that because she hung up immediately, and they were like, it came from that house, but all we heard was screaming. So I think that's how it went.
But the sheriff turns around after being told
the same
where.
Sheriff.
Yeah. And he shows up with a deputy, and at this point, there's a part of the wall missing where you can see inside of a bedroom, and there's like electricity crackling up there. There's holes everywhere. There's damage to the house, and he's just like, I think he says Tori. He's like, "Tori, you there? Respond to my voice." And she's like, "I'm in here." And so he goes up on he walks up the steps, and she's like running around the corner to get aid from him, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just boom, like a truck,
a train. Yeah,
just hits him, and he explodes like Red Dead. Yeah. When someone's standing on the railroad tracks and they get hit by a train, they explode. That's exactly what happened.
You also
to him.
see like the effect of how he splattered because there was a railing, so it just went like he went over. Like, it's so awesome.
And then the deputy's like, "Get in the house!" She's acting like Billy Badass over here. And they rush in and like tells her to hide. And like she's like going around looking, and she rounds this corner to the back screen door.
Which is leading to one of my favorite scenes that I apparently just completely forgot about.
And she like looks at him and then goes to the radio, and she's like, "I have eyes on the suspect. He's out the back." And then looks up, and he's gone. And then cuts back, and then he's standing
right behind me.
And then we see Tori hiding, and I'll let you explain it because you liked it so much.
Yes, this was some straight anime or Superman stuff, and I loved every second of it. So in the background, it's such a cool shot too. I didn't even comprehend how cool the shot is. It's like over a couch almost. Mm-hmm. In the background, you just see freaking Brandon slamming this woman down on the ground just over and over, just
he was slamming her on the ceiling.
It might have been the ceiling. It was he was picking her up and literally just boom, boom.
It was almost like the Hulk tossing around Thor, just but. And then throws her into the room, and Tori just looks over, and this cop is just bleeding out.
So Tori hides under the bed, which is some callback to the beginning.
Yeah, she's hiding under the bed, and we see the floating feet of Brandon.
Super cool shot again.
And he does the whistle from the hide and seek thing. And he goes and he looks underneath the bed, and she's not there, which is exactly what she did first. So he was close, but he wasn't even that close. And so he decides to go outside the room, and we see Tori is hanging on the windowsill.
She drops down, and she realizes...
She cuts her hand.
Yeah, she cuts her hand, and that's what reminds her. The ship.
The ship hurt him.
So she is bolting to the barn.
As he flies out of the house.
And we proceed to see one of the most probably the second most gruesome shot in the movie. She drops down to where the ship is, and he has Erica's nude body freaking tied up like Jesus with all of his insignias around it, and she's just like gutted open against the wall.
He wanted to study human anatomy.
I guess so.
Up close and personal.
But she snaps off like a pretty good chunk of that ship. I think we'll get to it.
It's like a kitchen knife size.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
She snaps off this piece, and she goes outside, and Brandon's just there. Like, he doesn't attack her, she doesn't attack him.
It's still in the barn. She whistles, and like we just see her
Yeah,
for a second,
it's
and then
kinda
he
like a
whistles,
creepy build-up.
and he's right behind her.
But he's not doing anything. He's
No.
just like, you know,
Mom.
yeah, and it might have been like a moment he felt something, maybe, because she goes to tell him how much she loves him, and it's also cool, like his mask at this point is all torn up and stuff. It's cool. But you almost see sadness in him. He's like, maybe this was not the right thing to do.
I think it's because this is the only person that he truly cared about.
Yeah,
And
like,
she's
the last
trying to
person.
be like, you know, I love you no matter what and stuff like that. And it kind of seems like maybe if she didn't do what she was about to do, maybe he would have turned at this point. Maybe.
I don't think so.
But he was still like, he was about to tear up. Like, at least he was showing humanity in this moment. But as she's talking to him, she raises the blade up from the piece. Like I said, it's a pretty good big chunk. But he just grabs her hand immediately and proceeds to fly her above the atmosphere and just...
It's not above the atmosphere. It's where planes are. It's above the cloud cover.
That was-
Probably 20 or 30,000 feet in the
Yeah,
air.
yeah.
It's really high.
yeah, like stupidly high in the air. And it's kind of a cheesy shot. This is like a CG shot. They're like flying up in slow-mo. It kind of looked a little goofy. But once they're up there, like above the clouds, it looks really cool. He's just looking at her, just blank-faced, and just drops her. You just see her falling.
I think the reason it took him so long to drop her is because he was I think for the first time ever, this death holds importance, and also the way he killed her was important because it shows that he actually considered the weight of his decision. He, you know, while us as the audience thinks that him killing his dad was the point of no return, I think that him killing his mom was his point of no return.
This is apocalypse now.
He's officially cut his last tie.
Yeah, to
Any
humanity.
humanity.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think he drops her from 30,000 feet. However, that is the least gruesome death.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
You know, yes, her body's gonna look terrible when she hits the ground, but it's not. She's probably not even gonna feel pain.
Yeah.
It's just instantly over.
If she don't die falling.
Right.
in fear. I know that happens too. But at this point, he just turns in a cool shot. And there's a freaking massive airplane coming. He just looks at it.
And it cuts to black.
Yeah,
And
you
then-
think that's the end, but
It's
oh
not.
no.
Then we see that what we find out through a news broadcast is he's sitting on the back of an ambulance eating a cookie.
He's like,
Cookie. It turns out that the plane crashed, meaning that Brandon grabbed that plane and threw it into his childhood home, forever solidifying
they
that
said
it is
there
over.
were no survivors. He killed like 238 or 78
Yeah.
people. For some reason.
He's the only
Something
survivor.
like that.
And then, like, all the deaths that he did at that house got blamed on the plane crash.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cuts to, like, this conspiracy theorist on, like, YouTube.
It's such a fun ending. It's like, does it add a little cheese to it? Yes, but oh my god, it's awesome. So I'll let you do it. You were going.
It's Merle from The Walking Dead. He's a conspiracy theorist, and it's showing all these pictures from, like, newses of, like, this mysterious figure appearing over Brightburn and, like, destroying buildings.
Yeah, you get to actually see him like tearing down these world monuments and stuff, like collapsing. He's like leaving his insignia all over
in, like,
farms.
the flat Kansas farmland, like an alien. Like, well, he is an alien, but that's beyond the point.
Like he's taken over.
And it's like they're trying to keep it covered, just like that half man, half fish that's been capsizing boats in the Pacific, meaning Aquaman.
Yeah.
And then it's like this crazy witch lady who's been strangling people with rope.
She has rope, and
it's Wonder Woman. And then we see pictures
zooms out, and
yeah.
you see like a version of the Flash. You see a version of like Martian Manhunter, and one of them's blacked out, which would probably be like maybe a Batman or something.
I swear I remember like a alternate Batman from this the first time, but
I remember my first time seeing this, and I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna get a sequel to this, and it's gonna be like a team up Justice League. But it's like, I'm kind of happy they didn't. It's like,
well, all I gotta say is that if it does happen in the future, as long as James Gunn is associated with it, I'll be all right.
Yeah, everything he makes is pretty golden.
So, like, am I opposed to the idea? No. However, I don't think that they would ever work together. I don't think that would even be possible. I think that Brightburn would just kill them all. I don't think that they could
they're
work together.
all evil though, so I imagine the whole thing is supposed to be he's the Superman, and they're gonna be his allies.
But also, I just can't imagine. I mean, other than Martian Manhunter, like I can't imagine that these people would be okay with the world being just destroyed, because how would they live outside the atmosphere?
I imagine that it's just fun. Superman.
I know, but I get technical. So, but that is Brightburn.
Freaking awesome movie.
So,
I'm so happy that it won, to be honest.
I mean, I really wanted As Above, So Below to win, but I'm also glad that we got to cover this. This is a more modern horror movie. Like, I think As Above came out like in 2013.
We were in school, so.
2013, like maybe it might even be older than that, but like, we wanted to add the option of a classic like Christine in there, and we wanted to add kind of a bad horror movie.
Kind of a bad.
Well, I've never seen it, but I don't know where I was going, but then I realized that it's just bad. Bad horror movie, because that would be a funny review, because we've only done one horror movie that we didn't like so far.
We'll get to them.
Oh yeah, I know that the Trolls movies are in our future. I know that there's a lot of bad.
We got Slender Man.
Yep.
We got stuff like Truth or Dare. We got there it goes.
Which I know you talk a lot of shit about that movie, and actually one of our fans likes that movie.
Yeah, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
Hey, horror is objective.
It is the most subjective genre there is. Something that I hate, you might love. Something I hate, something I love, you might hate.
We have said this 1,000 times. There are some horror movies that we love that are universally hated.
Oh,
my
absolutely.
favorite horror movie of all time is pretty much hated across the board. So when we get to it, I'll reveal what it is, but it's probably not what you think it's gonna be. But
It's Slender Man.
yeah, I've never seen it, so
It's
it can't
really
be.
not.
All right, guys, that was a good synopsis of it, but now it's time to get into our scoring. So, all right, to start us off with the scoring, like always, we start with story. So, Zombie Cat, you've seen this, I think, one or two more times than me. So
Yeah, I love this movie. I've watched it a bunch. I even watched it last Halloween. So for story, to be honest, it's not gonna get that high because it's Superman's origin story.
Right.
It's just, let's take that and flip it to where he's a sadist. So it's like, I love that idea, even though I'm sick of like bad guy Superman stuff. This feels different because it's horror. It's like just the actual story, like probably like a 6. It's not that I don't like it. It's just that it's like I've seen all this kind of set up before, but it's like the story of this demented kid. It's like that's where all the points come in.
okay, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna give it a 6.
Yeah, because I mean, it's Superman's origin story,
Yeah.
literally, but just flipped
Upside
entirely.
down. Like if other decisions were made, I didn't think about it like that. So yeah, I agree with you.
But it's not that the story itself is necessarily bad. It's
No.
just like,
We've heard it before.
yeah.
We just turned it on its head.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, I guess there are some movies out there that when they do that, we praise them for it. But this one is just like,
How many times have we seen evil Superman? So it's like,
Well-
but like I said, within this context, it's like it's a horror movie, you know what I mean? So it gets bonus points, so it's different.
All right, well, we agreed on story, so it gets a 6 for story. Now, moving on to characters.
Characters are honestly a solid 8 for me. I can't think of why I would give them any lower. Like, the mom is super emotional, super sweet. Same with the dad. He's a pretty cool guy. He was weird about the gun thing, but even the aunt and uncle, they played pretty big roles. They did good jobs in their roles. Brandon himself, awesome little kid actor. I don't know who that is, but hopefully he's got a bright future. So yeah, so for me, a solid 8. Like, oh, really good.
Interesting. I went another direction with how I rated characters because I personally felt like, well, I don't dislike the characters.
To me, it's like there's just so few characters that it's like the ones that are there, they did their job.
I mean, they did their job, but I'm gonna be honest. At the end of it all, I feel like every character in this movie was just cannon fodder. Like, that's how I feel about them. And I mean, that's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to say anything bad about the characters.
Even the mom and dad?
Like, they had more depth, but honestly, I feel like they were only there to set up dying. Does that make sense? Like, they had some depth, and they obviously cared about Brandon, and they were parents. They acted like parents. But at the same time, I feel like we didn't really get to know them that well, because a lot of the focus was on Brandon, which obviously it should have been, but I feel like as characters as a whole, other than Brandon, which is his own category,
it's just like I feel like I liked the characters I was supposed to like. I disliked the characters I was supposed to like, so it's just like,
I understand why you're giving it an 8, but it's for those same reasons that I'm giving it a 6, because I feel
that's
like
not bad. That's fair.
I just feel like the characters are literally there for cool kills, and that's okay. That our favorite genre of horror is slashers. There are some slashers out there that literally their characters are just there to get killed.
It's like, I'm not here for you at all. I'm here to watch Jason.
Like, this is a slasher, but the killer is Superman.
Which
you know, the characters don't have to be good. I mean, they were, but they don't have to be fleshed out.
It wasn't no Grave Encounters 2 characters.
Right.
Like that.
So you gave it an 8. I gave it a 6, so which gives it a 7 for characters. That's not bad at all. But moving on to antagonist, the entire star of the show, obviously.
Okay, so Superman is my favorite DC superhero, so I'm a little biased because it's just literally taking... I love villains more than I do heroes, but taking my favorite hero and putting him in my favorite spot. So I give Brandon a 9. Freaking badass. Like, God. He is very creative with his kills for a little kid. I will say that. Like, man, that kid is demented. Like, I love him.
See, I hate Superman. Absolutely hate. I absolutely hate Superman. I'm that person that Batman can take him down any day of the week. That's just me. Yeah. Kiss my ass. But also, I'm more of a Marvel guy anyway. I've always liked Marvel more. However, I tried to give it a unbiased score, which... Because he is Superman, but he's not Superman. This is a totally different thing. I had to approach it differently.
It's just a fun nod, though, that James Gunn is making the... It's fun.
I know that this is Superman, but this is a horror Superman, so I'm having to approach it entirely different. But I still gave it a 7. I gave it a 7. It's above average, but it's still Superman.
Yeah.
It's just...
My points come from just how creative he got with, like, him being so sadistic. And once again, I get bias points.
Right.
Because I just love him being OP. So
I think that my score, like, if I were to give this movie a 9, it would be in kills.
Oh.
Which we do not judge that here.
If we ranked kills, I'd possibly give this a 10.
Yeah, like, this... The kills are the most creative I've probably seen.
Freaking awesome.
So I think that I can't let that affect how I feel about the antagonist.
That's fair.
You know, he is brutal, so that gives him
he
bonus
gets very
points.
Creative on how to antagonize these people.
Right, and he's very sadistic.
Especially Erica.
Yeah.
And the uncle.
He reminds me of what I imagine. Like, have you ever seen the Dexter series?
Mm-mm.
It reminds me of like a character from that would have been if they had superpowers. But anyway, so I gave it a 7 for antagonist. You gave it a 9, which gives us an average of 8. That is still good for it just being an evil Superman.
Yeah.
You know, a kid Superman. So, you know, that's not bad at all.
And a lot of that, once again, is back to characters for just a second. That little kid actor did such a great job. He looks evil.
My scoring in no way represents how I feel about the acting. The acting was good.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to humor. I actually feel like we have some unintentional humor points with this movie.
Yeah, like, there's a few little ha-ha chuckle moments, like the birds and the bees talk moment. It was kind of like a kind of funny, but and just a few like here and there things, but I give it like a 3 because I mean it's not really that funny, but there's like some goofy stuff like the baby, and when he's lifting his mom into the air, it kind of looked a little goofy, I can't lie, but that's bad humor in a way.
Yeah.
So it's like, for once, that's actually not a good humor point.
See, I gave it a 4 for humor, and here's why. Because I know that this in no way, shape, or form was meant to make me laugh, but it did.
Except for, like I said, here and there little...
I don't find this bad, I just think I find it realistic, which is why it's funny. There were, like, the cop calling in for backup and all this other thing. They expect, like, they can do something about it.
When we were watching this, I was like, this is literally the equivalent of calling the police on Superman, Homelander, Omni-Man. It's like, what are they gonna... Which we had to look at it from their perspective. They didn't know that.
Yeah, and, like, even the dad shooting him in the back of the head with the rifle, like, you're a dumbass for even attempting it.
Even the dad acknowledges that he's never been cut, he's never been bruised.
Which makes it even more stupid as to why he thought that a bullet would do anything.
The dad has the best idea of that kid's vulnerabilities.
Like, you and the mom should have worked together to maybe make, like, a bullet wrapped in, like...
Or just a bullet made of it.
Yeah.
Period.
You have, like, some, like, handmade bullets. And now, also, we didn't even mention this. This is sidestepping, I'm sorry, but it's like... we didn't even mention that now nobody knows about the ship.
Nope, nobody does now.
So, and plus, even if there was, there's only so much of that ship.
But I think he needs the ship. It's his contact.
Fair. That's like his, because there's definitely more of him.
Yeah. So, you gave it a 3, I gave it a 4. 3.5 for the average for humor.
So maybe like 2 points for like some little chuckle moments and 1 point for like that's not good laughs.
And then 0.5 for the audacity of these characters to think that they could actually do something. That's the funniest part of this movie.
It is.
It's just you're sitting there going, you're an idiot. And it's funny. Okay, so moving on to scariness. This one, okay, I want to preface this. This was not scary at all to me this time. However, I'm trying to remember what it was like the first time I watched it. The jump scares, most of them are good. And also they make sense because he moves so fast.
Yeah.
So
it's like the teleporting stuff that most movies can't get away with. This one has an excuse.
So for scariness, I'm usually a stickler about it. I mean, this is still run-of-the-mill for me, even trying to remember back to the first time I watched it. I gave it a 6 for scariness.
To me, I honestly, like I said, I even watched it last Halloween, but like, as almost just like straight, this is just a supervillain's wet dream, this movie, pretty much.
Right.
If you like supervillains, please watch this movie. But honestly, like, it's pretty damn scary at times, like, especially like the diner sequence, like, that is horrifying. So I'd give it like a 7. It's like,
Okay.
there's some moments, like, if it was my first time watching it again, I think even my first time watching it, like, I was like, oh, you know.
I think I gave it a 6 just because of how much that eyeball scene with me.
Oh, yeah, like, if I'd honestly want to maybe give it 1 more point just on the body horror alone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been a 5 for me.
So maybe up that 7 to an 8.
And keep mine a 6.
Because, yeah, that body horror, that's where a lot of the scariness comes from. It is it hurts to look at. That's a good job.
So you're going with 8?
Yeah, 8.
Okay, you went with 8. I'm still at 6, which makes it a 7 for scariness. That's like, it's above average.
Yeah.
That's like, you know, what we want, usually. Because average is just boring.
It'll probably give you the spooks.
Yeah, or at least, like, make you want to crawl out of your skin because of how brutal the kills are.
Yeah.
So, last but certainly not least, we have experience. How we felt about the movie as a whole. I'm just going to go ahead and say, I think I don't really have much else to say on this topic. Over for experience, I gave it an 8. I think it's well deserving of being watched again. I think it should belong in every horror movie collector's, collection. I would watch it no hesitation. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it will ever be perfect. I don't think I would want it to be perfect. So I'm giving it a slightly above average, almost heading towards the realm of almost perfection. I give it an 8 because I knew what I was signing up for and I got exactly what I wanted out of it.
For that same reason. Literally to a T, I also give it an 8. It's just a badass slasher movie, pretty much. It's a slasher.
It's a slasher. Yeah. That's what it is.
It's like I said, if you're like a fan of like Superman or something like that and want to see a cool take on that, you will love this movie.
I hate Superman. I like Brightburn.
Which you like supervillains too, though.
Yeah, I do like supervillains.
That's what I was saying. This movie is literally a supervillain fans.
I like DC supervillains and I like Marvel superheroes.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, everybody. So we both agreed. So that leaves us an 8 for experience.
Great movie.
Great movie. Definitely go check it out. Just some wrap up things. We said this for our 100 sub video, but I feel like we need to reiterate it. We have grown very quickly. We started doing this channel in February. And, I maybe to someone out there, they've grown faster than this, or maybe we are not where they expect us to be. But we just want to thank everybody who took the time to watch our videos, to comment.
Vote.
Yeah, to vote on our polls, to subscribe. I know it probably means nothing to you because it takes 5 seconds to do. But it means the world to us. We're working steadily towards 500, which is our first benchmark to get monetized. And we're actively trying to get there because we all work full-time jobs, and we have real lives outside of this. But we have a dream, and we've had this dream since middle school, and we want to keep growing and keep going.
Absolutely.
And talking about something that we love and we feel passionate about, and we feel like we have an opinion that maybe people would want to hear. Because we're not professional reviewers, but we are horror fanatics. All of this stuff is mine. Like I have a giant DVD collection of just horror movies. Yep. So does he, and we have digital collections to back that up too. So it means a lot that we've gotten so much support, and I never thought we would hit 100, and I definitely never thought that we would hit 200, especially so quickly. So thank you. We have an Instagram if you want to go follow us and see what we're doing in our real world shenanigans stuff, which we might actually have a post coming up next week on there about some stuff we're doing. But just go over to Instagram and follow us on at the Horridin channel. And we also have a Patreon. Zombie
Cat. Thank you to our beautiful patrons here. If you'd like to support what we do, you can subscribe to our Patreon, which is also just at the Horridin channel. I don't know if you even have to put the ad on there, but yeah, you can get your name put up for as low as $5 a month just to support us. Essentially, we have a new mic, we have a tripod, we've just gotten a few little handy dandy things that have helped make life a little bit easier. So yeah, if you could support, we would greatly appreciate it.
And like always, all funds for now are being cycled right back into the channel. If that ever changes, you will be the first people to know. But hope you enjoyed the movie. If you go watch it for yourself, if you haven't already, please, if you enjoyed this video, like and comment and subscribe. If you feel like supporting us financially in any kind of way, head over to our Patreon to get your name along with these beautiful people on this list. But most importantly, stay spooky out there.